You wake up in a pitch black building and it reeks of blood with a bunch of self-proclaimed angels who want you dead. What are you gonna do? Well, you're gonna have to team up with a bandage-wrapped serial killer. And together you face floor after floor of death traps, psychotic killers, and a truth about yourself that's so twisted you'd prefer dying to facing it. Today we're gonna break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the floor angels and angels of death. So Rachel here is not your average protagonist. When she wakes up in this strange building, she has no idea how she got here. She decides to walk around to find her parents. At the wall, she sees questions about her existence. But when she heads to this computer, it starts asking her more existential questions. She plays along and answers. However, when she answers accurately, a door leading to an elevator opens. Of course, what she doesn't know is that she's already entered the trap. As soon as she enters, the PA system announces that she's been chosen as a sacrifice. It also instructs all the other floors to begin preparation. The elevator opens, and as she enters, she hears the sound of a knife screeching. She ignores it and walks around. And that's when she finds a pool of blood, and she sees a tiny little bird. But when she tries to play with it, the wooden wall explodes, and she hears the most evil laughter. And behind her, this weird creep in bandages shows up holding a scythe like a grim reaper. And he gives her 3 seconds to run away because he's a psycho and gets a kick from killing screaming victims. Rachel runs as fast as her little girl legs can carry her, and she manages to hide and not make a sound. So Grim leaves when he can't find her, and after he leaves, she sees her little birdie friend, and the bird is dead. However, instead of leaving, Rachel decides to take a break and stitch up the bird. But what she doesn't realize is that the Grim Reaper is watching her work the shadows. Okay, so we're in a place we don't recognize, and in less than 5 minutes, someone is trying to kill us. Great. Well, if we're in Rachel's shoes, we gotta do a few things differently. When you wake up in a strange place, maybe don't rush out the door and start walking up and down. No, don't do that. That is one of the leading causes of all deaths in horror movies. Don't open the door. Now, what Rachel should have done is maybe take a hot second to actually look around at her surroundings, starting with the room she's in. Are there clues or hints of where she's at? Things she can use for survival? Think about it. She was alive and safe until she left that room, and it means that at least one person in this twisted place, at a bare minimum, put her in a place where she won't immediately get killed. And if that's the case, maybe there's some information here. Does she have an ally? We don't know, and we won't know because we didn't bother to really look around the room. With that being said, now that we're out of the room, we should try to locate the nearest phone. Considering that the room, the corridors, they all look very modern, it's safe to assume that this is the 21st century. It's not unusual for teenagers like Rachel to have her own phone. However, whoever brought her to this room either took the phone from her or left it on her. So if we have her phone, we can use the GPS to find out where we are. We can call 911 and do a whole sorts of things, assuming we have connection to an internet. But instead, all Rachel decides to do is just walk out on her own and stitch up a dead bird. And that's why, in my opinion, she's gonna get dead very soon. But continuing on, Rachel gets done and runs off. And that's when she hears his psycho laughter and he gets excited to chase her. But luckily, she finds the elevator and slams the door shut just as he's about to slash her head. But now she's heading somewhere way worse. Way worse. She just doesn't know it yet. Rachel comes out of the elevator and runs into Dr. Danny while she's running. He introduces himself as her therapist. Dr. Danny convinces her that the killer won't chase her to his floor, and so she joins Dr. Danny to search for the exit. Danny leads her to an operating room. As soon as they enter, Doctor removes the sheep's clothes, and the wolf comes out to play. He's fascinated by her eyes. He wants to add them to his collection, and Rachel is terrified. But Danny controls himself and tells her to help him find some stuff he left behind. So Rachel searches a separate room from him, and inside she sees different sets of false eyes. Dr. Danny is an eye collector. He gets excited when she finds a unique set of fake eyes, but all he really wants are her eyes. So when he leaves Rachel on her own to fix his new pair of eyes, she does the most logical thing, thank God, and runs away. However, as soon as she opens the door, the doctor shows up. She reveals that she is on his floor and she has to play by his rules because he can't go any other floor, and if she runs away, well, he won't be able to get her eyes. He grabs her and he sticks out his Orochimaru tongue like a pervert and about to go crazy. I mean, to be fair, all he really wants are her eyes and not her. Rachel begs him to let her go because all she wants to do is go back to her parents, but Dr. Danny says mom and dad are dead and waiting for her in hell. As soon as she hears this, something snaps. That fight for life, the will to live, it's gone. And this makes Danny even more excited. And in his excitement, because he's getting too much of a kick out of the idea of having her eyes and making her miserable, we see someone getting closer in the shadows. The Grim Grim Reaper, still out for blood, and he stabs Danny quite literally in the back. But when he gets to Rachel, he can't kill her because her will to live is already dead. He tries to slice her, but she just doesn't move. She just stays still like a doll. And then the PA system comes alive and announces that because Grim Reaper Dude violated the policy of the tower, he's been degraded from angel to sacrifice. He hears this and he tries to run away, but he's too dumb to figure his way out. And that's when Rachel shows up behind him with a very weird request. She asks him to kill her. And now he is so confused that he barfs out his entire breakfast. And then he warns her to never say stuff like that because he's a killer, yeah, but he just can't kill if his victims aren't afraid of anything. Twisted, oh yes. Anyway, they enter into a pact where he agrees to kill Rachel if she helps him get out of the building first. So they agree and Rachel heads back to where Dr. Daddy is and they find the key to the floor. When the elevator opens, Reaper Dude is impressed because she's a smarty pants. He promises that as long as she does her job, gets him through all the floors, yep, he'll kill her once they're out. And he introduces himself, and his real name is super original, Zack the Ripper. They arrive at a new floor and Rachel immediately notices that there's something in the water, but Zack can't care any less. She tries to find out more about the building from Zack, but all he knows is that he was brought here because he said he could kill as many people as he wants. They head inside. They see a bunch of graves, and Rachel even finds one with her name, but it's all because this weird dude has a crush on her. They also find an unfinished grave. When he tries to break it, Rachel warns him his scythe could break instead. With no one in sight, they decide to search for another way out of the floor. After a little bit of an argument, Rachel goes in search and sees a small crack in the wall, while Zack stays behind to search the open space. Before leaving, Rachel begs Zack, don't destroy the makeshift grave, because now she's obsessed with dying. As she heads down the corridor, the floor master starts talking to her, and he's like a weird creepo. They're all creeps, honestly, in different ways. And he says he has a crush on her, and that's why he wants her to rest in peace. Meanwhile, Zack tries to behave for a few seconds, but when he can't take it anymore, he goes nuts and breaks the graves, unintentionally causing the debris to fall on a hidden lever, and the door opens for Rachel to go in. Inside, she finds info about everyone in the building, including herself and Zack, and she heads back and calls Zack Isaac Foster. He's not exactly pleased to hear the name, and that's why he decided to break her grave too. After breaking it, he warns Rachel not to listen to any strange voices because he's gonna be the one to kill her, no one else. When they find the elevator, it's not open, so Rachel tells Zack to check inside the water. But while he's inside, he asks her why she just can't kick her bucket if she wants to die, and her answer is so weird that he never even saw it coming. She says she can't kick her own bucket because God doesn't allow that sort of thing. And Zack finds it funny, and he tells her that if she wants him to kill her, she's gonna have to put some effort into making her, well, face killable. He tries, hyping her up, asking her to smile. But when he realizes that her eyes are truly dead, he just walks away. So Rachel goes to find the lever on her own. What they don't know is that they're playing into the floor master's plan. Zack gets out of the water because it's cold, and he heads back into the room, and a creepy dude wearing a Scarecrow mask shows up behind him. As soon as Zack sees him, he does what he does best, tries to slice and dice the Scarecrow, but it's too quick on his feet. While dodging all of Zack's attacks like he's playing with a toddler, Scarecrow tells Zack that he fell in love with Rachel at the first sight. That makes him the second angel to do so, by the way, but Zack doesn't care. When the Scarecrow is done having his monologue, he warns Zack that he has to be the one to kill Rachel. Zack's not liking it, so he attacks Scarecrow, but the boy disappears at the same time when the lights come on. And Zack has no idea what's going on now, and while he's busy trying to figure out where Scarecrow went, Rachel finds a passage with another letter for her, and suddenly, Scarecrow shows up behind her and gets all giddy. But when Rachel tries to run, he tells her that he's not a man without poise, he won't try to kill her unexpectedly, like the other floor angels. He promises to give her the perfect death, and tells Rachel to accept his proposal, but for some reason, Rachel hesitates, and it gets him really mad. He can't tell what Rachel sees in Bandage Guy. Zack realizes that Scarecrow is about to take his only ticket out of this building away from him, so he starts looking for Rachel. He eventually finds his way to the wall behind Rachel. Scarecrow doesn't care that Zack can hear them, and he offers to kill the girl, and this time she almost accepts. However, Zack's voice stops her just in time. Zack reminds Rachel that they made a promise before God that she will only die by his hands. So she says, nah, not gonna do it now, and tells Zack to break down the wall with all his might. Of course, that's a piece of cake for him now. They stare at each other like Jack and Rose from Titanic in a weird twisted anime love affair, but when Zack enters the room, Scarecrow leaves. Together they look for Scarecrow because they need to leave the floor, and when they find him, he's finding it really hard to deal with rejection. Rachel explains to Scarecrow that, yeah, sure, she'd like to, get dead by him, but Zach swore to God. So Scarecrow says, I renounce God, because they don't have that kind of luxury in their building. He also explains that while there's no God in the building, he's been given the right to kill whoever is on his floor. Rachel bluntly tells him that he's not going to be the one to do it. Too bad. And this makes him super pouty. He decides to take matters into his own hands by killing her without consent. As he attacks, Zach rushes out and defends her, and Scarecrow somehow turns off the lights and disappears in darkness. Zach sends Rachel to find and turn the light back on, but after watching him swing in the dark for a while, Scarecrow chases after Rachel. When he finds her, she's admiring this cute little gravesite, and he knocks her out and pushes her into the grave. But when he's about to put her lights out permanently, she puts a torch in his eyes and turns on the light switch. Scarecrow can't understand why Rachel is rejecting him. While he's busy seeking an explanation, Zach shows up and knocks him back into the grave. He uses the scythe to knock off his mask, and then buries the kid alive in the grave he dug. Alright, well, all's well that ends well. But I'll say they would have been a lot more type of trouble if they hadn't reached this light. And the fact the only reason that she survived this long is because Scarecrow was super bent on playing by the rules. I mean, if he just decided to kill her because she was on the floor, this would have been over with long ago. Like, for example, while it is true that Zach can't leave the building without Rachel because he's, well, dumb, Rachel could die at any point without Zach. And that means he stands to lose more than she does. But to protect her, he should have done a few things a little better. First place, when you go into a shadows that is too risky and known places, we've clearly seen that Zach does not have much of a plan of anything aside from slice and dice. Because like we said, he's a dum-dum. But even purebred killers like Shin from Kingdom should have been able to use their instincts to come up with good strategies that win wars. That means while he's a killer, he has the ability to come up with some good solutions. And that's why the minute you agree to work together, you don't leave Dr. Danny's floor for the next one. Like, seems like the way the tower works, every floor has a floor master who's in charge of everything. So that means Zach has been on his floor since forever. And he most likely knows the location of everything on his floor. And he knows they're starting on a dangerous journey where every floor angel they encounter will be on a mission to kill them both. Now, if we were in his shoes, we should have made sure to get every stinking little item that you can get our grubby little hands on Zach's floor. Get a bag like this and then stuff it with first aid materials, stuff like that. That way we will be at least prepared to deal with the possibility of getting hurt on the journey, which I should add is very high. And then we also have to figure out a way to find a gun. Nothing too fancy, but given that Zach has been on a killing spree, there's no way one of his former victims did not have a gun in self-defense. If we had the toolkit during the attack by Scarecrow, Zach would have never been at a disadvantage, and Rachel would have never gotten in trouble because instead of having to split up to find a torch or a light switch, we would have used our own torch from our trusty bag to save ourselves, and then the fight would have ended without Rachel ever falling into the danger of getting buried alive. Zach and Rachel get to the elevator and head to the next door, but Zach is mad because the elevator doesn't take them out of the building like a normal elevator should, but as soon as they get out, they meet this locked cage, and Zach refuses to be of any help, telling Rachel to figure it out because she's good with locks, and she slowly reaches for her purse, but when Zach asks what she's got in there, all she says is, oh, just a thread and needle. Zach thinks she knows how to pick the lock with a pin, and he has no idea there's way more than just that in her bag. Zach gets tired of waiting and decides to slice through the bars, but even after Rachel warns him, he gives it a try anyways, and the cold steel of the iron knocks some sense into him. However, because he attacks the iron bars, a gun pops up from the ceiling and starts shooting them. They manage to dodge just before the floor angel sends them a greeting over the PA system. She introduces herself as the judge and praises Zach for managing to survive, and therefore she opens the gate and lets them in. She opens a room for them to take a mug shot first before killing them, because, she's gotta have some fun first. After the mug shots, the door opens, leading to a room filled with punishments that she prepared for them. After they enter a room filled with dolls, Zach really can't figure out what they should do, and he sits in this chair, not realizing it's an executioner's chair. And that's when the floor judge reveals her face on TV and sentences Zach to death by electrocution. But he doesn't die the first time, and our judge is determined to kill him. But Rachel takes a moment to boot while watching Zach get executed, and that's when she realizes that the electricity is coming from the eyes of the dolls. So she grabs his scythe and chops off the heads. The twisted judge is impressed because she immediately lets Zach go. But when Zach gets out of the chair, he takes a moment to deride his savior for taking too long. And they share shared twisted couple moment again before Zach breaks out the TV. And when the door opens, they find this door where they keep outside. And as soon as they enter, the door locks them in. And this room is full of blood. And when Zach tries to break the wall, he realizes it's as hard as steel. Anyway, the floor master pops up again and explains the rules of the new room, which you don't really care about because we're not Zach and Rachel. She tells them she's about to fill the room with poisonous gas, and the only way to survive is to get out. And there's only one gas mask, and they have limited time. What are they gonna do? As the gas starts filling the room, Zach and Rachel argue over who should wear the mask because they're both selfless in a weird twisted way, but they're smart enough to take turns while Rachel figures out the riddle. She finds a dead body with a haiku poem and a scale, and she figures out they need to balance the scale with the leg of the corpse. But when nothing happens, she realizes there's more to the test, and she runs into the gas-filled room with her eyes already burning, and the old judge is just watching with glee on her face as Rachel begins to suffocate. Luckily, Zach's nearby, and as soon as she falls on the ground, he grabs her and gives her the gas mask to breathe with. Using the new lease on life, she checks for the effect of her scale balancing, but it doesn't take too long to see. There's an opening in the air vent. She shows it to Zach, but instead of acting, he grabs her and shoots her like a falling star into the hole. And inside, Rachel finds a card key, and when she gives it to Zach, the idiot brain of his just breaks the card before he can even get to the door, and even Rachel is stunned at his stupidity. Time runs out while they're trying to figure out what to do, and the judge fills the room with more poisonous gas. And that's when Rachel decides to stop holding back. She reaches into her bag and pulls out some dynamite? Wow. With it, she detonates the metal cage just as she passes out. But Zach's a stud, so he carries her out, and they all survive. Wait, she had a dynamite stick from the beginning? You could have been out of the gas trap before things got any worse, too. Things could have gone very differently if she just didn't whip out the bomb at the last minute. Like, if we're in their shoes, as soon as twisty judge over here turns on the gas, we gotta find a way to shut it down. Because you see, gas traps usually work when the gas is left unattended and allowed to leak into a room over a long period of time. However, for the gas to get into the room, there has to be a point of entry. And usually this would be an air duct, as is the case with our girl and boy, but that's where we're gonna flip the script here. Instead of playing the game of brawn and logic, you simply stop the gas. So to do this, you enter Zach and have him open the air vent or break the wall. You would need a hammer or crowbar, but in the absence of these, just get the scythe. All you have to do is get high enough to stop the vent and break the inner wall. As soon as the inner walls collapse, it would stop the poisonous gas from entering because the stones would stop the gas flow. And with the gas stopped, they have more time to figure out how to get out of the room without their lives being on the line. Also, they could have just tried to break through a part of the wall. Typically, there are spots in walls called hollows. So instead of trying for the thick steel reinforced spots, Zach, maybe try to find the hollow spots and give them a swing of the scythe instead. That way you could have broken out of the building and not deal with the test in the first place. Once they get out, Zach finds a hidden spot from the camera. Rachel takes a beauty nap, but Zach notices that he's tired, so he uses his scythe like a cross and goes to sleep. After the siesta, they head to the testing room on the next floor. But what Zach doesn't know is that the test is designed to mess up the mind. The game starts and Rachel uses her big brain to direct Zach on where to place some dolls. But what she doesn't know is that the placement is based on Zach's traumatic childhood. When they were almost done, Zach just can't take it anymore and he crushes the whole thing. And Rachel cannot figure out why he's so mad. They proceed together to the next room. And this time they meet the twisted judge. And she still has more games to play. To open the door, they have to lace themselves with these, well, needles. One is deadly and one is not. They don't know which is which. Zach gives himself a little poke and opens the door for them to continue. That's when he gets crazy hangover and attacks Rachel. But instead, she looks out for Zach. Not running. She could have run. She should have run. Using talk no jutsu to get him to let her go. And it works like a charm, and Zach controls himself long enough to give her a running head start. Although Rachel doesn't care about staying alive, she agrees to run for Zach's sake. And he chases her down with drugs propelling his hunger to kill, and that's when they run into another trap. And the room's full of guns aimed at them, ready to go. Zach is too focused on running to notice this or care. However, before he can slice off Rachel's head, a bullet runs through the arm and forces him to the ground. And then the twisted judge shows up again, and this time she's determined to execute them both. And he changes his target, but the judge is protected by a sturdy glass frame. So instead, she gives Rachel a gun and tells Rachel to shoot Zach before he chops her head off. But what the judge doesn't know, that she made a grave mistake. Meanwhile, Rachel refuses to shoot Zach because she's cute and she doesn't want to play the dumb judge's game. So Zach takes the law into his hands, and when he can't control himself anymore, so he does a little bit of a pokey poke in the belly with his scythe. And that's what gets the judge super angry, because Zach falls down dead, and in doing so, she opens her protective door in anger and storms into the room to inspect the corpse. But Zach starts coughing, and then the judge gets filled with glee and decides to kill him with her remote-controlled gun. But when Rachel tries to protect him by aiming her gun at the judge tells her that the gun is even loaded. But what she doesn't know is that Rachel's got her own weapon. So when Rachel sees her gearing up to kill Zach, she takes the bull by the horn and shoots the judge in her belly. And this This makes the judge so excited because now Rachel is worthy of her judgment, but she speaks too much. Way too much. So Zach, throughout this long monologue, rises like the Undertaker and chops off the arm controlling the guns in the room. And the judge tries to grab her sliced arm, but she accidentally shoots herself instead, and despite his injury, Zach says it's time to move on and leave the room and head to the next floor by placing their names in this weird mechanism. And as soon as they do, the elevator to the next floor opens. Rachel realizes that something is wrong. Zach is bleeding profusely and her boy just falls down in the elevator like a man with zero aura and blood. Luckily, Rachel follows the no one gets left behind rule, pulls him out of the elevator, and when he wakes up, he can't move. So Rachel tells him to stay still and she's gonna find some meds. Rachel runs around for a bit till she finds herself in this hallway with strange purple smoke. She passes out, but when she opens, the smoke's gone and there's a book in front of her. She plays along with the rules and a door opens for her, and inside she finds a bottle and she's asked to confess her sins. And when she sees herself face to face with the mirror, even Rachel has a hard time keeping up with what's going on. The mirror breaks and she grabs a piece of the broken mirror, and the scene changes again, and she hears a strange voice talking inside a triangular room. And the voice calls the place the confessional. But from the room, her parents suddenly pop out of a wall, and Rachel doesn't give a poop, and she slices through them. But when she tries to move, her fingerprints is red and laced with blood. But unlike others, he says he won't judge her without watching her first. Yeah, true judge. She finds another book, asking her to confess her sins again, but instead she pours ink onto the painting of an angel, and that's when this dude, looking like a priest, shows up. Unlike the others, he says he won't judge her without watching her first, and he tells her where to find meds for Zach's wounds, but it's all the way down on Dr. Danny's floor, and Rachel doesn't care. The priest agrees to take her back there, and as usual, she has to undergo a test. Before agreeing, she heads back to where Zach is and tells him to wait a smidge longer. It takes a bit of convincing because Zach wants to follow her, but he finally gives in and tells her to branch his floor and get his old knife. You see, this is why you don't allow your emotions to take over and make dumb decisions. Zach's life is hanging in the balance, and his only hope is for Rachel to somehow find the meds for him on the lower floors, and this could have been avoided. The problem starts when Zach and Rachel fall for the twisted judge's trap. Back in the room with the drugs, she said the only way for them to move on was for the 2 injections, and Zach, ever the safety stud, decided to take the risk of both injections on himself. That's only because they were thinking in a linear way. Logic and linear thinking is good, but it has one big disadvantage. It can lead to a narrow perspective and difficulty in adapting to change, and this could lead to missed opportunities. In their shoes, we could have taken a moment to review what the judge said, and if we do, we would notice that we can't empty both bottles without injecting ourselves either. And something has to be injected, though. There are ways to create things that look like drugs that are really just like water. Ways of fooling the doctor, possibly. I mean, they could have done a whole bunch of things. You see where I'm going with this, right? They could have even injected the drug into the air, emptied both cartridges, and the door still would have opened. They interpreted the rules meaning instead of literally listening to the rules. Had they done this, Zach would have never been plagued, and he would have never had to chase Rachel down, and certainly he would have never stabbed himself. After she returns with the weird priest agreeing to his terms, and together they head back down, and things get really interesting. When they get to the first floor, the priest explains that she would take a test on every floor. Her first task is to turn the electricity back on for the twisted judge's floor, but when she gets to the room where the switch is, there are zombies. That's not all. The judge's body is gone. Rachel doesn't care, and instead she heads out and turns on the light. But when the priest asks her how she was able to turn it back on, she gives him the good news that there's no more people on the floor, and despite being an angel of judgment, our priest gets a cold sweat from how ice cold Rachel is. They head down to the next floor, and that's where the priest calls her an irregular. On the next floor, she notices the Scarecrow's corpse is gone, and that's when the priest tells her that thanks to Zach destroying the graves, ghosts cannot move on to the afterlife now. But she doesn't care. When the ghosts try to block her path, she squashes all their hands by stepping on them, and it's so heartless that the priest wonders if she's even a demon. And she finds the floor to the elevator and opens it. Before they get down to Danny's floor, the priest asks our girl if she didn't feel anything while stomping on the hands, but she claims she felt nothing. He decides to obey the gentleman's rule and let her have her way. When they get to Danny's floor, he lets her go find the drug, but when it gets really close to her, it vanishes. It's gone. As she walks in, she realizes that once again, Dr. Danny's body is gone, and that's only the beginning because after searching the entire floor, she can't find a single drug for Zach. So she heads back to where the priest is chilling and accuses him with her eyes. But after they get past her accusation, she decides to get Zach's knife. Meanwhile, Zach is having the time of his life down in memory lane. He remembers killing his parents, some babe, getting revenge for death of an old blind man who took him in after he ran away. But when he found the killers of his old guardian, he kept stabbing the girl long after she was dead, and that's how our boy got his insatiable thirst for blood. But while he's busy, someone creeps up on him and gets ready to stab him. But when the lights come on, it turns out to be Dr. Danny, and he's back from the dead and itching for revenge. But Zach is too weak to do anything. Will Zach survive Danny's attack, or will he fall to the twisted doctor's injections? We'll just have to wait to find out.